What up? I'm sitting down with Pell from New Orleans.
Yes.
Thank you for sitting down and come home with me, and welcome to Denver.
Thank you for having me. Denver's nice.
I take credit.
Yeah, shouts out to you.
Right. So you're originally from New Orleans, and the first track I heard from you was about Katrina.
Right.
Tell me about that track as well as the overall experience of Katrina.
Wow. Well, I guess I'll start with Katrina. The overall experience was just, I'm sure you've heard it many times when people were displaced. It was an era of like losing everything that you had tried to hold on to and watching it get swept away. Like, it's a bad feeling, but at the same time, you realize you can go two ways from that. Like, somebody can be traumatized by that and not recover and be sad about all the things that they lost in the past. But another way to look at that is like with optimism and like learning a lesson that everything's temporary. You know what I'm saying? Like, not everything lasts forever. And you can get up and move and start over again and start over fresh. That's really what I did afterwards. But as far as EST, my approach was taking a nostalgic approach on all the things that I loved about New Orleans and what I was going to put in my music that New Orleans needed to hear about, like, my appreciation for what they taught me as a kid.
And then you moved to Mississippi.
Right.
So how did living in Mississippi, growing in Mississippi, change the music you were exposed to?
I was exposed to, it wasn't as different, actually, as you would think. People still listen to, like, Currency, Wayne, especially at the time that, like, because this was when Wayne was in his prime. I was in high school, and he was dropping those, like, the drought is over, all that stuff was coming out. So classic, like, yeah. Wayne was on it.
Yeah.
And so, people were still listening to that, so I didn't feel like too much of a separation from, like, my hometown. But at the same time, I was introduced to, like, a little bit more blues and a little bit more of the singer-songwriter aspect that New Orleans, like, hadn't really developed at that time as far as, like, the artists in hip-hop go.
New Orleans kind of has a different sonically, you know.
Yeah, definitely in, like, bounce culture is always going to be huge down there. Because that's just what we do.
And then the brass, you know.
Oh yeah, jazz is huge. Yeah. Second line, huge.
Yeah, I saw Rebirth when I was up.
Oh, Rebirth, that's what's up. Yeah, you have to see that.
Yeah.
That's like a rite of passage. Like, you didn't go to New Orleans unless you saw that.
So you mentioned before that you were inspired by Late Registration.
Yes.
What other albums or artists were instrumental in inspiring you to start rapping?
That's a good question. I'd have to say Andre 3000, Outkast. But I say Andre 3000 just more the Big Boy because his singing approach. Like, I like how you can come, like, he taught me that you can come unorthodox with it. You don't have to sing like everybody else, because even like when rappers are singing in their own voice, they don't take it to the level that they could. And sometimes the song is affected by it. And people can hear you and feel you more. So definitely Andre. Who else I'd have to say I'm rapping to? When I first started, I was also into Lupe heavy. Like, I'd honestly say Lupe and Gym Class Heroes. Yeah, I don't tell people that one often. You're like the first person I told that. Gym Class Heroes for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Lupe.
Because both of them told a middle class type of struggle, even though that they were exposed to both like the white crowds and the black crowds. Obviously Lupe is a little bit more extreme, but like Gym Class Heroes gave me a perspective on how to tell stories just as Lupe did, and like that's key.
How interested are you in being on the radio and into like the mainstream music industry?
I'm not like particularly interested, but I know that it is something that my music can reach, because my music is highly accessible, like because it's so versatile. And I feel like I have tracks that can make it to the radio and still be me, so why not? But at the same time, as far as like switching up to make sure that it just can be on the radio, no. I only make music for like people that are like me and people that I can hopefully influence.
No, that was actually the second part. Like, do you feel like you have to sacrifice creativity to be on the radio?
Not at all. Like, actually a good example of this was like when I heard The Weeknd on the radio for the first time when I was in New Orleans, like not too long ago, probably like 3 months ago. And I was like, if The Weeknd can be on the radio, because that's straight internet music, like in terms of like all the people that talk about it, I don't see him like on the radio, I see him like person to person. And like, it's really about the organic thing, so.
Word, I see I've been talking to a lot of... Word, Stay
For real, stay real.
No,
It's
but
easy.
yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of like independent artists just like killing it right now. You know
Oh,
what
for
I'm
sure.
saying? Like,
For sure.
you don't need a label anymore to
No,
push this.
because
Like,
you can give it straight to the people. With
Yeah.
the internet, you can give it straight to the people.
yeah.
And people will see that, and then they'll be able to like buy into it and actually be a part of the movement because they see that you're doing something positive and it's not being like watered down by anybody else
Right.
because it's coming straight from the heart. That's really what makes music like infectious. Like
Yeah.
it's gotta come straight from your heart, and
And
people will
yeah.
really understand that.
And it's super dope because it's like all these young cats just like pushing back, like, I'm gonna do me, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And it's
for
like
real.
so much great music out.
Yeah,
Like, it's dope.
so much.
So, I've seen the blogs refer to your flow as like dream rap.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that label?
I'm not one for labels, but actually I feel like that's kind of, it accurately describes how I flow on tracks because it's all a stream of conscious most of the time and it's all introspective as to like what's been going on in my life, whether it's a story or just how I'm thinking about different things that I see because I try to create to relate, like I said earlier. Like I make music for people that are either like me or that I can influence to do better with their lives.
So your videos are very unique, and one of the aspects that really drew me into you. How involved are you in the process?
Oh, heavily involved. Heavily involved.
I know you can't wait to talk about
Oh
this.
yeah, no, like I tend to think of myself as a director sometimes, although like
Do you direct the videos?
No, I actually hire somebody on to tell me like what's good shot wise, and like I also need a cinematographer. Three of the videos have been done with crews. Like I'll team up with a production company and we'll make things work because I have tons of ideas and I write out scripts and treatments for all the videos, and I just want to make sure that it can all be captured because I'm not as well versed as some people, and I know my shortcomings, and I know like sometimes people can help me out.
But you definitely have like
Oh, huge! Yeah, definitely.
creative control.
Definitely, yeah.
Dope.
And I feel like that can only happen with the people that I work with because like they're cool with like sharing visions or like if something's not right, they'll be like, maybe you should do this from like a good camera angle or like story plot wise or even just the aesthetic of the whole video with the song. And it's just good. Like I've been working with really good people that help my vision be magnified like to the
Would you be interested in directing videos for yourself or other artists in the future?
Oh, for sure. Like I sent a tweet out like it was like around New Year, so everybody was probably drunk. But like I really want to get into directing other artists' videos for sure. Like
I think you'd be dope at that. Yeah.
I really think so too. They need to hit me up. If you're looking at this, you need to hit me up. For real.
New director in
I
town.
will do that. I will do that.
Right.
With
So
quickness.
you have, from what I've read, a similar hands-on approach when it comes to making beats.
Yes.
Break down that process for me.
Always want to start from scratch. Sometimes, like, and this is very rare, I think there's only 2 tracks on the project that were actually sent in. If I'm not there with the producer, we're not building together, like, I'm telling them, like, what type of drum, snare, or, like, obviously I want their input as well, but I have a vision for what I want my stuff to sound like. Honestly, it's like it's a project where we start from ground up. We'll make the beat. I'll start singing some melodies and some harmonies. Then the words will come after that. I'll sing it probably for like 10 to 15 minutes. I'll make the melody because you always gotta go with your gut instinct. Like, it comes out of me immediately. And like as soon as I start making the melody, I already know what I want the song about.
Do you have a history in production?
Yeah, I actually started producing before I started rapping. I used to produce for some of my homies. Shout out to LB. Shout out to Flywalker. Well, Flywalker is a producer. He actually doesn't have anything on this project. He has something coming very soon. That's really dope. But yeah, I started off with production.
So how'd you transition into rapping?
Actually, and that's funny. I just mentioned one of my homies. I call him Justin. Flip the government out. But Justin, he told me I could. He told me I could flow, and so did my cousin. So we all formed a group. It was called Homesick Astronauts. And it was called Homesick Astronauts because we were from New Orleans, me and my cousin, and we had moved to Jackson, so we were homesick, and we were also like spacey. The vibe was very spacey, so it was a tie-in with like reality and like the sonically like.
So you dropped a new track recently in prep for the new album.
Yes.
Dollar Store.
Yes.
Talk about that track.
Dollar Store was definitely influenced by where I worked. I used to work at Dollar General. After I dropped out of college, like immediately I started working at Dollar General. It was kind of like a transition almost. And what's funny is I actually got hired because the manager was a blog writer. He was a blogger. And so he had heard my music and he was like, oh, you're Pell. Like before when I sent him like my resume and everything and the application, and I didn't even really know if he was gonna hit me back because I didn't know that they were hiring, because I heard that they weren't hiring, but I just didn't really know because I was going around town, trying to find work. And so I went there and did the interview, and he was like, oh, I already know who you are. He was like, hey, I just wanted to say what's up. Basically, it was like cool. It was mad cool, and we got to know each other, and he's written about me a few times. I think it's like that 50 blog spot is his
Shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out to Shannon for shout out to Shannon. It's cool. And when I wrote Dollar Store, I was actually at work. And I would write in my head because I watched the interview. I can't remember which interview it was with Hove, and Jay-Z was talking about how when he was a kid, he would ride home on the train and try to memorize his lyrics before he got on the train, when he got on the train, and when he got off. And I tried to follow a similar mindset because I was trying to wean myself off writing. I'm really a writer at heart, but sometimes I try to go free flowing from my brain. And so that actually was free flowing from my brain. So I held it for like 2 weeks, which wound up turning into 2 months. And so at the end of that 2 months, I wrote it down because I wanted to make sure that I got everything right. And I flew out to Cali and had a session with Lupe Fiasco, who also has done some stuff for Childish and Chance. And it was really dope. Like he was all open. As soon as I spit everything for him, he was like, let's make the beat now. You want to go ahead, please? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, this is the intro.
So Feel Good Summer was like the introduction.
Yeah.
How will Floating on Dream compare?
I feel like it's a progression. I actually dropped a project before Feel Good Summer. It's not really like highly publicized. We don't really go into it too much right now because I'm making a transition. But definitely check that out. It's called Calphonic. And I wanted my whole music to be a progression because I've seen even in the greats that I look up to, like the Ye's and the Hoes, they're always able to transcend through genres as well as generations because one, they keep it real, they keep it honest, and they're able to change with the times as well as develop as an artist. Like I don't want to make the same stuff I made 2 years ago because I'm growing as a person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I want my music to reflect that. I don't want to be running backwards, essentially.
Absolutely. Word. So you're on tour right now. You're gearing up to drop this album this springtime.
Right.
What's the summer looking like?
Summer's looking good. I'm trying to go back on. We got a couple things in line for tour right now in the summer, and I'm gonna have 3 listening parties for the project. One in New York, one in LA, and one in New Orleans.
Dope.
All in May, and then I have an official release party in New Orleans, which will be dope.
Nice.
So
That's the one I want to come to.
You got ooh, that one's gonna be crazy. That one's gonna be really crazy.
New Orleans gets live.
For sure, and I've actually I have a special surprise for all the people that come there because we did a lot of work.
Okay,
all right. Oh wait. Okay. This is the last question. I'm doing the interview.
Okay, so last thing, just give a shout out.
Shout out to Rachel and shout out to Come Home With Me, and I love your work, by the way.
Thank you.
And
appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. And shout out to TFG, the whole fam, That Feel Good, everybody back home in New Orleans and Mississippi that's rocking with us, and everybody that we've touched over the states that's been influenced by the music and been inspired by the music. Like, give me a shout out whenever you see me. It's all love.
Word. Now you gotta get ready to rock this show tonight.
Exactly. You gotta go to the show and turn up. Let's
Word.
go.
Let's go.
Hey.